going on, everyone? Bostonian Plays Video Games coming at you. Uh-oh. So I didn't realize, but good for me, it's double XP weekend here at, oh, for Christ's sake. Let's go. Do I have 0 or something? Okay, good. Now I have 15. I don't know. There you go, huh? Letters from quarantine coming at you. We're at letter 5 now. Whoop. You know, bringing you some of the day's news and my interpretation of my experience of what's going on this double XP fire axe. That wouldn't be too bad. No. So, you know, President Trump, as usual, had a conference at about 11:45 a.m. Cuomo, right before, there seems to be a pattern here. So Cuomo will come out first, and then Trump will come out second. And, you know, Cuomo is usually a lot more serious, I think, as far as, you know, the measures he has to take. So, and what is that? Well, that is, you know, New York City is basically on lockdown. He says it's not a shelter in place because he doesn't want to use that wording, but, you know, essentially that's what it is. You know, right now there are no, you know, misdemeanors in place or anything like that if you're caught, you know, outside, but, you know, eventually, as it's happening in France right now, that's what they're doing. So you need a reason to be out, and you know, and they're tightening their hold on what people can do and what people can't do at this point. So, and you know, right now it is a slow rollout as far as, you know, numbers are going to continue to grow higher, and you know, measures are going to get stricter. So at least that's what I can see, you know, over the next, I think, couple months. So, and it is getting difficult for people to, you know, stay in the house, and, you know, just, you got to stay strong, including myself, you know, psychologically, and, you know, try and get through this thing. And I could only imagine that the anxiety will go up the more that this goes on. You know, Michael Moore came out with a tweet today that someone in his building was rushed out in an ambulance and then later died, and so now that's very real for him because it was in his building. I think a lot more of those stories will come out in New York City, and we'll see how people react. Especially if they're locked in their homes, you can imagine that that will be psychologically difficult. Because if there are cases that happen for those of us who live in buildings, I live in, you know, a 84-unit building as well, that is going to get into people's minds. So, but anyway, so let's just talk about the experience as of right now. I wake up. I come to a full realization that this is, you know, still happening, and that, you know, stricter measures are going to be taken, you know, throughout the day. The morning is usually, you know, more optimistic. You know, what can I do with my time? I can do this. Sharing videos, sharing films. Then the afternoon hit. Oh, wow. Then the afternoon hits, and is this somebody's thing? Okay, what's going on? Where is he? Then the afternoon hits, and you know, it becomes a little bit more. Honestly, come on, this guy's taking very little damage here. Let's go. All right, I'll take the grenade. Sledgehammer I don't really need. Usually the point of the Trump Trump's statements in the afternoon is to try and give you a little bit of hope as far as his antiviral medications, and they're coming out with numbers. And again, the one thing that I think is going on is like, look at South Korea has had some pretty good success with this, and the media keeps comparing us to Italy. Well, I mean, Italy's story, unfortunately, is a lot more dramatic than South Korea. So why can't we compare ourselves to South Korea? The reports keep coming out that we're online with Italy. This is what's going to happen, which obviously isn't that optimistic. Where South Korea has had real results. So if we flip the narrative to we are setting up testing. We're going to look more like South Korea. They have been able to manage it, the best. Then, that would give people a little bit more hope. But, we're not doing that, unfortunately. So, and what seems to be, in my opinion, they need to get the infrastructure in place in order to start testing everybody. So I understand why there seems to be a bit more focus on locking people down and activating the National Guard and, asking the U.S. military for help. Also taking over, school buildings and, getting something solid in place to deal with an influx of patients, which, they seem to feel is inevitable. Once we start testing more, and unfortunately, sometimes this virus takes about 7 to 14 days to even show itself. So, so there's that, and so what can we do? To be honest with you, just try and stay mentally strong. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not eating like DiGiorno pizzas all day long. It's I'm trying to get as many vitamins as I can. As far as I take a multivitamin every morning. I then have some breakfast, which usually is oatmeal with almonds, flaxseed, and peanut butter. Then I do another multivitamin that's a powder multivitamin, and then I do lunch, which I got to be honest with you, for what I bought, it's mainly like I don't want to call them tacos, but it's like chicken tacos with whatever I have, pepper and onions and stuff like that. Then I'll do an emergency, more for the electrolytes than for vitamin C. I'm not like going crazy on vitamin C or anything like it's going to help. I mean, the flu is the flu, and COVID-19 is what it is, which seems to be, from what I've read online and people who have shared their experience on Twitter. It's obviously more like pneumonia, and it can be pretty dire. So and that's not to set alarms or anything like that. That's just to go over what I've read. I'm just surprised at I will tell you, I'm just surprised at the amount of data that we don't have. It's like we're waiting on, what's happening in our own country. I mean, China has already gone through this, and, you really can't trust their numbers. Italy's going through it now. We're getting the data from them. South Korea's, so it's not like we're in this big mystery bubble where it's like we don't have data. And again, I mean, we should be focused on the testing, not rolling out the military. I understand they're getting infrastructure in place and, need the room to do this, but, so anyway, so outside of my opinion about what's going on, as far as the way that I feel, there are, throughout the day, there's pockets of anxiousness, I think, because we don't really have an idea of how long this is going to go on. I've tried to keep myself busy, doing other things and staying away from, what the news is saying. But becomes increasingly difficult because Governor Baker is activating 2,000 National Guards. Um, and these stories kind of pop up again in a slow rollout throughout the day. So, and the way that I see it, again, it's like morning is a little bit more optimistic. This is what I can do with my time. Afternoon seems to be like, okay, we're testing antiviral stuff, and the late afternoon into the night, though, seems to be when we're getting the more anxious stories. Again, it's Baker, rolls out the National Guard, and the mayor of New York is calling for more federal help and to do a complete, citywide and statewide shutdown. So then the evening is usually filled with like, what's going on here? And that's the pattern that I've seen, at least from how I react to what's happening. That's when people usually give me a phone call. That's when I'm usually getting text about, this, that, or the other. So that seems to be what the patterns are. So, again, I think it's going to go on longer than we would like. I think there's two big events going on simultaneously. I think it's the economy, and I think it's the virus. And again, I think we need to hunker down and prepare for a psychological test more so than anything else. And try and take care of ourselves as much as we can, and reach out to people when we can, stay in contact with them, and stuff like that. Also, just in case, I mean, you never know what could happen, and this could happen. It's not a result of the virus or whatever, but during the summer months and stuff like that, sometimes electricity can go out. They're already saying in France that they want Netflix to be standard definition, and YouTube has gone along with it because they're getting heavier traffic somehow. When the whole world's working, they're still using the internet. It's not like just because we're home, we're using the internet more. But it could be what we're doing with the internet is causing more strain as far as video games like this one online. The amount of data that's required to watch a bunch of movies and TV. But I would also have a pen and paper, have things that do not require the internet standing by, so that you're not surprised if we run into pockets of non-service. Okay, and well, that's just my advice. I have no idea what's going to happen, and again, I'm just going to do these letters as raw as I can, and not try and get into theory and all that kind of stuff, but just tell you how I'm feeling, and if you want to leave a comment and tell me the same thing, then that is fine. But I'm keeping this in the Fallout 76 community. This is not to be, this is not me trying to, build up an audience or whatever. But consequently, I do hope people, watch, and that's the reason why I'm sharing this stuff. So stay safe out there, and next couple weeks, just stay focused. All right, take care.